Hello, today I'm going to be making a ram's head hook, and so the ram is going to be in the style of Bill Carter's ram that he taught me how to make, and so I'm then showing it to you as I've had a conversation with Bill and he's letting me put this content out there, so thank Bill rather than me for this design and letting him letting me show you how I make this ram. Anyway, for the hook, I'm going to use 8mm round bar, so we're going to forge a ram's head out of 8mm bar rather than 12mm round, which is what I've done a video on before, and when I've been doing all the other animal heads, I've been using 12mm round, as that's generally the size that we use for fire pokers and bottle openers, but for the hooks are a little bit smaller, so I go with 8mm round, and also I make letter openers as well, and I do a smaller head on that in this 8mm round bar. Obviously, with the head being smaller, everything is down a size, so we've got to make some new tooling for all the eyes, which I've already done, but you know, everything has to still be in proportion. And the head, I do it slightly differently. There's a couple of little notches that I don't put on this design, as I find trying to put those on, trying to squeeze them on is a little bit too much. So I take a couple of features off, but it's still, you know, still the same ram, still influenced by the same style of Bill Carter. Anyway, let's get into the video. So the process to make the ram is basically exactly the same, but it's just all a little bit smaller. So you can start by creating that little step on the piece. So sectioning off material for the horns. And again, I'll leave this to cool down and then cut it there with the angle grinder. Is if we do it hot, we can get you just get a bit of a ragged edge. So if we do it cold with an angle grinder, we can prevent that and we get it nice and clean, a nice clean split. Get the first bend in. Time for the second bend. So we just close it up on this hook rather than putting that swan neck in where it then goes back around. We just have it sitting flush like that so that it can screw easily onto the back wall, so it then sits flush with the wall, whereas if we had that swan neck in, it wouldn't fit. I hope you can sort of see what I'm getting. The swan neck is a bend there which knocks this back, which obviously if that's the wall and it has that bend back in, it's then going to sit up like that and not going to work as a hook. So we leave it like this and we can now begin to punch all the facial features onto that face. So we're making this ram's head, everything's a little bit smaller, so you've got to make a couple of the tools again so that everything is still in proportion. You know, we can't have the same size eyes, so this eye tool is a lot smaller, and then the eyebrow tool is also a lot smaller than when I'm doing a 12mm ram's head, whereas all the other tools, these ones, they're all the same. So that's the mouth, nostril, split down the top to separate the horns, and then the pupils tool. And I've got them all here set up, so I'm going to do nostril, mouth, eye, split the top, split the horns, eyebrow, dot the pupils. So it's all in order, so I'm ready for my heat. So I'll bend the bar out the way so that we can get in when we punch the mouth. So if we start with the nostrils, and now we can get in the mouth. And you see, by bending the bar down, it means I can get in there and not burn my fingers. Just mark the eyes, there's colder temperature. And I'll just bend that bar back so it's coming out there, back in line, so it's flush. But I'll do it off camera. Cut the eyes in deeper. Split the horns and then run that line onto the face. Go straight in the face. And we can come on with the eyebrows. So I'll leave the pupils right to the very end. I'll scroll the horns up first. Just if we do the pupils, they might oxidise up a little bit too much and you can't really see them. So we do the horns first. You got to be really careful not to burn the horns off because they are really small. They're about 4 mil round when they're twisted. So you've got to be careful not to just burn them off. Once you've done the rest of the face, you know, it's very annoying if you then burn the horns off. Or snap them, that can also happen. It can snap off if they get too cold at the root. So many bad words are said when that happens, but hopefully we won't do it on this one. That was a terrible heat. I was talking too much. I got nothing done. Hopefully I can wrap it up much better on the next heat and get it all nice and symmetrical like that other one. A little bit more tweaking, but that's basically it on the horns. Let's get ready to dot the pupils. So the pupils we can do cold because effectively they're just a centre punch mark really, so you don't need any heat on them. You can just come on with this tool, get them dotted. And this really brings them to life, I find, you know. Without the pupils, they just sort of look like a piece of metal. But once you get the eyes on there, it looks like an animal rather than steel. I've got this ball fuller, which is literally just a sphere on the end of a tool, and we can use that to put a countersink into the bar, so that we can then put a hole in there, so we can screw it onto the wall. And we want 2 holes, so we do 2 centre marks, or countersinks, which we can then centre mark, centre punch in there, and I'll drill these rather than punch them, as they're a little bit tricky to punch once we've already put this countersink in there. We wouldn't have a good time trying to screw that into a wall at the moment, because, you know, it's lovely and flush, isn't it? Right, I'll get this straight in the vise, but I'll do that off camera, and then we can centre punch some holes, which we can then drill. Actually, I've remembered how to make these hooks, so I'll give it a straighten, but what I do now is I cut it off and I forge the hook out, as if we have the holes in there, they become even weaker and it might bend there whilst we're trying to forge it down here, and that's just a little bit annoying. So I'll cut it off first, forge out the hook, then do all the centre punches and drilling the holes and all of that jazz. Draw this material out. Change to a bit of a lighter hammer so I can put this roll-up scroll on the end. Make sure to work from the very end, making that really nice and neat and all bent, and the rest of it will just roll up itself really once you've got the end sorted. You can do like an open scroll on the end. I prefer a roll-up. I think it's all personal preference. Just a, you know, little small scroll there. There's so many different types of scrolls, you can do them however you want. So let's wrap this up into a hook now. Quench that end off there so it doesn't distort too much as we're now bending it over, as we're going to be, you know, hitting that as we're bending it around, so we don't want to distort that scroll we've just forged. Obviously we're going to have to straighten that, that's massively off. I haven't fudged a hook like this in a little while, so I have a jig to do this, so I'm out of practice. Use a centre punch to dot the holes in there, which we can drill to 4.5. You could punch them, you know, if you punch it into a wooden block or over a plate with a hole in, you could do it like that. But I find it just easier and quicker to drill them rather than trying to faff about holding it in a pair of tongs and punching it hot. It's just easier to do it cold with a drill. To finish this, just dip the head in some oil so we can get the finish all the way around it, just vegetable oil, and then I'm using a rag just to smear that oil all over the rest of the hook so we get a nice dark finish coming onto the hook. You've got to wipe away the excess on the head, make sure it's not, you know, covered in oil. There we go, pretty much done. It's just a nice, you know, burnt oil finish. You can do it with beeswax. I prefer it with beeswax. I just don't have any at the moment. I find the wax it gives it a bit more of a shine compared to oil. You know, you can use, I think I use just vegetable oil on this, but you can use boiled linseed or, you know, a Danish oil, whatever you want. But as I said, I prefer beeswax. I just don't have any at the moment, so I'm using oil. Thank you for watching the video. There you can see the finished hook. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll take an angle grinder and just grind on the back so that it sits really flush to the wall, as if there's any sort of bobbly bits on the back it can rock or something, but this one was okay. It's sitting nice and flat there. So the oil finish makes it really nice and dark, and this is the finish that I tend to use on all of my stuff, on my hooks and things, you know, a hot oil, hot beeswax finish. It's very common in the blacksmithing world. So this oil finish, it's lovely and dark and it's nice, it gives a nice shine. I do prefer the beeswax. I find the beeswax gives it a little bit more of a shine, and hopefully I can buy some more in. I've run out at the moment, but I can buy some more in, and then I can show you the difference between the oil and the beeswax. I find the beeswax has a little bit more shine, as I said, and something about it. And obviously, of course, you can do loads of different finishes. We could wire wheel these and get it really shiny, and then polish it up and get it really shiny. But I find a beeswax finish or oil finish, hot oil finish, is just easy, quick, gives it a nice black look. Do that. Anyway, I'm rambling on, so thank you for watching the video, and I'll see you on the next one.